Welcome to the September 25th meeting of the Rotary Club of Jamestown. Will you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, singing our national anthem, and repeating the four-way test? I pledge allegiance. Liberty and justice for all. And now, the four-way test. Of the things we think, do, or say, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial for all concerned? Very good. And our invocation today is by Becky. And I think I have you unmuted. No, hang on a second. Becky, can you unmute?
Yes. You can hear me? Thank you.
Yes.
Let us offer thanks for our food, blessings for one another. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for our opportunity to serve Rotary. Let the feelings of love, kindness, and a well-directed yet gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. Amen.
Amen. Very good. And President-elect Marion, do we have any visitors today? No notice of it. Raise your hand if you're a visitor. Okay, well, thanks. It's a wonderful crowd to see today. Thank you, thank you. And the coffee is up here so that I can have a whole bunch of it if you guys don't drink it. Okay. Oh, Marissa, where is she? There she is. Our official greeter. Very good, good, good. All right. Let's see. Announcements. I'd like you to look in your program so we can keep announcements sort of to a minimum. I'm hoping, I got my fingers crossed that someone can attend this evening's magnificent membership Zoom meeting at, I believe it's at 7 this evening, because I cannot, and I'm not sure, have not heard anything from membership committee that anyone can. So I am hoping someone can do that. Lisa, I see, is here today. Lisa, are you needing rides to anything? You're good? Okay. Please let us know. We like seeing you. So the membership committee will be meeting tomorrow at 8:30 at either at Labyrinth or by Zoom. So we hope you can all join us for the membership committee meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 at Labyrinth or Zoom. And the fundraising committee We'll be meeting also tomorrow, but at noon at the Prendergast Library, and that will also be provided by Zoom. And I'll get those Zoom links out to you this afternoon. So you don't have them yet if you're wondering. Sherry, did you have any update on the Rotary weekend that you wanted to do, the November 18th and 19th?
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. Yes, I do. We had a meeting last Thursday. We are going to be holding the weekend on Saturday, November 18th to the Sunday, the 19th. We've started to put together a rough agenda of things. The kids are basically coming just to spend time with themselves and with us. So if anybody has any suggestions, we did put together a rough agenda. We will be having another meeting soon because we have a couple of other things to plan, but that's a go. So we're definitely doing that. We'll be welcoming 10 international students and a couple of district people to Jamestown. We're going to be starting our recruitment very soon. We're going to be doing some school visits, and we're going to do a parent night. I think of the weekend of October 23rd. We're still finalizing that, but so there will be a parents information night about youth exchange. We will do interviews probably in November, and that's just a quick update for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marion has a couple announcements.
Thank you, Ruth. And when I'm finished, I'd like to invite Dewey up for an update on a nice project we're working on. This is actually an opportunity for Rotarians to volunteer. As you know, last year we helped the YWCA with their Coldest Night of the Year fundraiser to address homelessness. And this year they are sponsoring a Latino Heritage Celebration. And one of our own is a sponsor. Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union is a sponsor for that activity, but they're looking for volunteers. And the details will be forthcoming, but I can tell you that right now they need, you can give me 1 second to read my phone. They are looking for volunteers who are willing to lift and move tables and chairs for setup and cleanup. Setup would be from 10:30 to 11:30 on Saturday, September 30th. They also need people to clean up after the event ends at 4 o'clock. And then during the event from 1 to 4, they need 3 to 4 people to be attendants and monitors. So you'll be located throughout the city to direct people for non-urgent first aid table, bathrooms, and pass along information. So I'll send an email as well. You're not expected to commit this to memory, but just think about September 30th. I think it'll be the first Latino Heritage Celebration, and we'd always love Rotary to be a part of that. So thank you.
Yes, please.
Well, we got a pretty big crowd today, so that's great. So one thing we got together and discussed was how to get more people involved and more people to show up to the meetings. So we came up with a new brochure. We had our trifold brochure that was out before, but it was a little bit too much detail to it. So we wanted to simplify some things and actually get more of a one-on-one conversation with people about getting them here. So if you haven't seen it yet, we do have the brochures that actually allows us to go out and talk to people. So I do a process at my work that's called cold calls. So I'll go out to old companies that we haven't dealt work with, or companies that we do work with a lot, just say thank you, or new companies that are welcome to the area. This is where this design came from. So I've taken some time to try and actually reach out to a few people. Unfortunately, with some leg issues, I've been a little demobilized lately. I'd like some assistance from y'all. If you know anybody that you got personal touches with, we have plenty of the brochures. I can get some out. And what helps attract them is we are offering them a free lunch. They have to show up with the brochure, and that lets us know that we're doing what we're doing. Once they get here, and once they show up and actually become part of the first meeting, it's to all of us to make sure that they continue coming back. So I think it's a real good thing that we've come up with, trying to get more members involved and get more people involved in the city, making sure that they can help out where they can. Are there any questions on this? Okay.
Do, yeah, it's the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, yeah, so anyone would like them? Yeah. So, any other committee chairs have any announcements? Oh, Joni, back. I hope to hear some happy bucks too from Joni.
I'll combine my happy buck and bucks because it's sitting right at my table. Okay. October birthdays. If you have an October birthday, can I ask you to raise your hand? Excuse me, I can ask you to raise your hand. Would you raise your hand? Nobody has one. Okay, good. Well, I'm sending out the letters today. So I'm hoping we're celebrating on the 2nd. Sure. So you'll get your letter. If you're online, you have an October birthday, you'll be getting a letter. I can come back for the happy buck if you want, but I've been gone for a few weeks because my daughter had her baby. Right on the due date, actually, started and on the 9th, but the baby's in the NICU. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. She should be discharged any day. So her name is Maddox Rose.
All right. And I hope we got pictures. Very good. Any other announcements? Emily, you have anything you want to announce from social yet, or still in the works? So
Still in the works.
okay, thank you. Yeah, October. Mark your calendars for October 30th. There will not be a noon meeting. There'll be something else. So, please get your tickets out, and Dewey will come back up here with 50-50 drawing.
So we figured out how to get more people involved. You just don't have ones for change. So we got $60 to the winner. Could I get you to pull me a ticket, please, sir?
One 00613.
We got it. Thank you. Yes. Also, Joni has put in $5 to the Happy Bucks already.
Thank you, Dewey. And now give a hand for our Sergeant at Arms, Mike Roberts, who is filling in for Doug, who thankfully is out of the country, not ill.
That's a good thing, isn't it? So, well, it's so fun scouring the paper. You learn so much more than when you just browse, right? Bust-I had this big event. Andy, I'm not going to fine you for your attendance. We're grateful that you represent our state here, like our county and the state level. Appreciate that very much. But I did read about the Southwestern boys soccer. Does anybody have any idea why I would be reading about 16 goals? I'm not going to charge you for the 16 goals. Just the 2 that he scored, a buck Connor, great game. They won a big match. They've got a super team from reading it. Congratulations, Kurt, on his son, who's a junior at Southwestern. Oh, I did not know that. But we can't find visitors or okay, wonderful. Thank you. Air taxis are going to be built in Ohio, if you didn't know. What a nice article that Melissa and Marion had in the paper. We don't find for Rotary events, but thank you for the Books for Bibs, the UPMC, the Creche Connection. What a nice article, and thank you for representing our club so well. And I think, is Mark Olson still here? So he's already, so Mark paid for leaving early. Dave missed a couple of meetings and paid for leaving early, as did Tori. But you know, I'm a football guy. I like watching football. And let me tell you, that was a game yesterday. Dominate. If you wore a Bills emblem yesterday, 37-3, I think you should pay up. If you, and that starts with me, because I had my Bills shirt on and they won a dominating game yesterday. So the interesting part is the team they play next week scored 70 points yesterday, and we gave up 3. Something's going to break. I like the Bills at home. I see Dan with the chamber is not here. They had a big announcement. They're going to do a recognition dinner. I think it's October the 5th at SUNY Fredonia. And then we come to last Friday night. Wow. You can pay a happy buck. Well, you know, you don't need to, because you're going to pay in a moment. Okay. Vicky did a beautiful job with the food. We gathered down at the Roger Torrey Peterson to recognize Greg and Sue Jones for their John D. Hamilton, a fellow Rotarian, a member of our club. Wow, just to see all the things that they've been involved with for the decades they've been involved with them, to see how their family had all bought into that. It was a night for Rotary. What a special night for Rotary, because we were represented so well. And so I think that those of us that were there should celebrate our attendance by paying a buck in honor of Greg and Sue. And how blessed are we to have the Community Foundation? I gave her change. The Community Foundation does so much for us, and past executive director Randy Sweeney is a member of our club. So is Tori Organg, who is the current executive director. Tori, your team knocked it out of the park. It was such a well done event. I'm not surprised coming from you and your leadership, honestly. So congratulations to the Community Foundation and to Greg and Sue Jones and to the Rotary Club, which was mentioned more than once. That's for sure. So we know the Bills won. How did Notre Dame do?
Lost.
Don't call the opposing team soft. That's not a good idea. I think the Buckeyes won that game. I wasn't sure. I really wasn't even sure they were playing this weekend. But
Right.
Michigan won. Penn State won. Syracuse won. So if any of those schools mean anything to you, come up and pay up. Now we're going to go with Happy Bucks. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Happy Bucks. 50-50 win.
So as has been mentioned here before, I now work for Science Friday. Immediately after this meeting, Jennifer's taking me to the airport and I'm going to New York City to be in office with everyone for the next couple of days. And so that's exciting, including Ira Flato.
Cool. Oh,
So my happy buck, I can't see everybody, but as Mike said, between Vicky's excellent job, I mean, Vicky makes excellent food all the time, everywhere, but she put extra special love and care into this because it was for Greg and Sue. Between that, the excellent work of David Niles at our TPI, and then of course the team at the Community Foundation who were phenomenal. I showed up and smiled and got to talk to people and give a lot of hugs. That was really, so I feel like it's a great event, but it's easy to have fun when the people that you're recognizing have done so much and are so fun themselves. So it was a real tribute. And I think Mike's right. We should have played a game with how many times they said Rotary. We all had to pay $1 today because it would have been a good fundraiser for the club.
I have some happy bucks.
Yes. Thank you. Go ahead, Becky.
Can you hear me now? I
Yes.
keep asking that. I already paid these happy bucks online, but my husband Dale was in the bus side parade, and all our family came to see him, most of our family. And also on the float, I saw our exchange student. Is he here? So he was on the float with the soccer team from Southwestern. And our kids from Cleveland came for the weekend with their 2 little boys, Charlie and Jack. And we found out they're having another baby boy. So we're excited about that. I also wore my Bill shirt. I also want to honor the Jones and the Community Foundation. That's all.
Thank you so much, Becky. Yeah. Yeah,
Can
I
you-
would. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sue.
Greg and I are sorry not to be there. We are on our way to Orchard Park to another doctor's visit. But we just, from the bottom of our hearts, thank everyone who supported us. And Greg's throwing in 20. I threw in 5. So God bless Rotary and all of the other community organizations that were a part of our lives and continue to be a part of our lives. And God bless Jamestown. Thank the Lord for this wonderful community and the Community Fund Foundation. We just had the most magical evening ever imaginable. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Very good. Yep. So we're giving you a standing O, Greg and Sue.
Oh, thank you. You can take my doctor's appointment if you like.
So it is my pleasure today to ask President-elect Marion Beckering to come up and introduce our speaker, Isaiah Rashad. Mhm.
Hey. So much of what we do involves the lives of other people, particularly young people. And I know that being in Jamestown, we come across a wide variety of folks. And I say that before this introduction to tell you that there are no throwaway kids. And so when we may have some difficult encounters in our work, our volunteer work, just remember stories like Isaiah's and others you may come across to know that you can make a difference in someone's life in a very profound way. So my 2 cents. Isaiah Rashad II was born in Buffalo, New York in 1975. At the age of 7, Isaiah became a gang member and remained so for 5 years. By the age of 12, Isaiah was homeless, riding the rails, sleeping in abandoned homes, buildings, and train stations throughout New York State. After some time, Isaiah was placed in foster care, which did not last long. By 19, Isaiah became a United States soldier, serving honorably in the Army. 4 different tours of duty, 4 different police departments in 2 states. After 10 years of public service and the loss of several of his fellow officers, Isaiah left law enforcement and began teaching. Isaiah became an assistant professor at Erie Community College and is currently a PhD candidate in psychology at Capella University. Isaiah is a writer and speaker regarding crime, cultural behavior, and human rights. Isaiah is married and has 5 children, 1 deceased, and a stepdaughter. Please help me welcome Isaiah Rashad.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm not used to talking on the mic. I'm usually just speaking out loud without the mic, so bear with me if I'm not sounding too good. I want to give you a story, and I want you to think about what you would do in this situation. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go and elaborate a little bit more on my growing ups. So, you guys believe in dreams? Here, believe in dreams? Raise your hand if you believe in dreams. Raise your hand if you believe that you've had a dream and then see it actually play out. Raise them high, raise them high. Okay. So I want you to think about 1997. Do you guys remember where you were and what you were doing? Anything significant in 1997? Give me 2 people here. 1997. You're in Japan. Okay, pretty significant. Okay. How about you? You lost a job and you lost a job? Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, very good. So prior to 1997, I never believed in God and I never believed in dreams. When I would hear people talk about it, I used to think that they were crazy. But then 1997, I'm stationed in Hawaii. I'm in the Army, and I end up having a dream. And the dream is this. There is a white police officer. He's wearing a blue over brown uniform. It's dark. It is a highway with like an incline. There's an overpass behind. There is a brown over white forward extended cab pickup truck with a white male in the driver's seat. And when the officer approaches the truck, the driver reaches in, grabs a silver revolver, and he kills the officer. That's the dream that I had. Now I wake up, I don't know what it means. I have no idea. Well, 6 years later, I'm a state trooper in Colorado. True story. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's me and my partner, Dan. He's working on the other side of the city. Call comes in that he has somebody stopped. And guess what? It happens to be on the same road that he's on. I am sitting about a mile away, and I hear him say over the radio, "Dispatch, I have a truck stopped, white over brown, Ford extended cab pickup. There's 1 occupant in there, and I'm going to approach." What do you think I did once I heard this?
Drove like crazy.
Yeah, did I freak out or what? I did. I get on the radio and I say, Dan, don't approach him. He's like, what's going on? Now, there's some rules that we have in law enforcement, especially as troopers. When we're going to make a contact, we have to do things a particular way. So I'm telling him not to do it, and it doesn't make any sense to him. And I can't really explain it over the radio. So I tell him, just hold on. He's like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm only a mile away. I'm on my way. Now, as I start to approach him, I make sure that my lights are all off, even headlights. Why do you think I did that? Why am I approaching him with all my lights out? Say again? Yeah, so who can't see me? The driver. Why? Okay, possibly. Okay, possibly. Okay. Main reason why is I wanted to make sure that we're not getting this guy into a heightened state, because usually within about 2 minutes of not contacting him after we turn our lights on, we're usually going to have a problem with the driver. So I get there, I'm blacked out, I get out of the car, and he's like, what's going on? And I said, something's not right about this truck. I was like, what I'm going to have you do is you're going to approach this way, and I'm telling him what to do, and I'm going to approach this way, and we call it a button hook, and I'm going to go into the field and then come around to the passenger side of the truck. He says, okay. So we go and start making our approach. He's making his approach slowly. I do the button hook quick. I does not know that I'm there. I come to the side of the truck and I'm looking in. He can't see me. And as Dan is approaching, what do you think the driver did?
Reached in for his gun.
Yeah, he reaches in to the center console to grab his silver revolver gun. But before he can do it, I pull up my gun, I yell out a couple things, and we get him down on the ground and he's cuffed and everybody's alive. Dan asked me, he says, Isaiah, how did you know? I'm like, it was a dream, dude. It was a dream 6 years ago. Now, that's one part of the story. Second part, there's a guy named John. John is a good man. He works hard, takes care of his kid, doesn't have any criminal issues, just a really good guy. Well, he gets a phone call this night, about 11 o'clock, and it is his son who's 9 years old. His son is crying to him, Dad, I don't like being here, because the son's now living with the mother and the mother has a new boyfriend. Anybody here know situations like that? Okay, it's not so good. So he's calling up his dad and really having a complaint about the boyfriend, this new boyfriend. So John gets on the phone with his ex. They have a conversation, and basically they figure out that, you know, our son is just, he's being a little brat. So no big deal. A few hours goes by. It's close to 2 o'clock. And the phone rings again, and this is unusual. It's his son. His son is saying, Dad, I need you to come get me. He's hurting me. And he's crying. So as a parent, as a father, what would you do? Well, let me tell you what John did. John reaches into his dresser, grabs his gun, and now he's on his way to deal with this situation with his son. He's speeding. He gets stopped by a trooper, Dan. And this is where we meet contact with him.
Yeah.
Now, we talk a lot about gangsters, that we're all gangsters in some capacity. Well, this is proof of that. I've met a lot of people and came in contact with a lot of people as a police officer. And I'm going to tell you that some of the best people I've met snapped and did whatever they felt they needed to do at that particular moment. John was getting ready to kill an officer so that he could go and deal with the safety of his son. Do you think you would have done the same thing? Do you think you would have approached it that way? Okay. I'm sorry. If you're talking, I can't hear what they're saying. I'm sorry. Ask yourself, would you have, I don't know, go ahead and raise your hand if you think you would have handled it the same way. You guys are, you're lying. Okay. The the situation is a little bit different with John, because John, white guy, grew up in Denver, and in Denver, most people are carrying guns open. It's open carry out in Denver. So having a gun on him wasn't a big deal, and dealing with an issue before the cops would show up also was not a big deal, because that was considered a normal thing to do. So a lot of people would judge him and say, well, you know, he's wrong, he shouldn't have done that, but he came from a completely different upbringing. So we are going to handle things differently here than they would handle there. But all of us have a little bit of gangster in us. Ask yourself, what would you do similar to John? What would you do that would actually push the buttons to make you act in a way that would not be considered normal? And all of us have it in some way. Think about Christmas. We all have some of that in us. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about gang life. Anybody ever been in a gang? Raise your hand. No one? You know anyone that's been in a gang? Anyone? Yeah. You have? Okay. You have? Okay. I'm sorry. In Nigeria? Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Lot of gangs out there. I'm sorry. Sorry. You guys ever heard of the Bloods? So I was raised in the Bloods gang, and many of my family members are still in the Bloods gang. And to be brought into that kind of life is something that's considered normal. You know, you do what you see. And to have a father in it, a mother pushing me towards it, and aunts and uncles that were in it, some of which are still in it. It's very difficult to escape it. Anybody here tell me what the average age is of being jumped into the gang? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the average age of being jumped into a gang, if you are a male being jumped into a gang. Okay, 15, what'd you say, 10? Anybody else? 11? Anyone else? Okay, now it's about 8 years old. Now it's about 8. So think about your grandkids, your children. This is the kind of stuff that's happening, and it's getting worse. When I went in, the average age was about 7. Okay. Why do you think that age group is preyed upon so much? Any ideas? Role model, taking place of what? Their fathers. So when I got into the gang, my dad was in prison. I was doing what I thought was considered right. And it wasn't easy, it just was. And the process of going into the gang was to be surrounded by 4 guys. In my case, it was 2 guys that were 11, a guy that was 12, one that was 13. And they surround me and they took me into like kind of like a little alleyway. And they ask you if you're sure you want to go in, which you always say yes. And then for about 3 minutes, they beat the hell out of you until the 3 minutes is over. And the idea is that you're being beaten, but you cannot cry, and you have to always stand. So, you know, you're bloody, got something broken, it doesn't matter. You cannot cry. And then after I got beaten, I had to hug each of the guys that beat me. Is that happening still today? What do you think? Oh yeah, yep, right down the street, guys, right down the street, that's happened. When I went to go get out of the gang, it was after my 3rd time being arrested. I'm 12 years old. I've been in cuffs plenty of times, had no fear of authority, no fear of police, and quite honestly, never saw myself becoming a cop. I didn't. I figured I would end up either dead or in prison and possibly maybe a boss one day of one of the gangs. Well, after my third arrest, the judge told me that I was a bad criminal because I kept showing up in her courtroom. She said, "You need to figure out a different occupation, buddy." So I did. But now I leave the courthouse and I have nowhere to go. I'm homeless. I'm 12, and here I am running the streets and living with all kinds of people on the trains in New York City, throughout the entire state of New York, really. And I did that for a while. And before I was able to actually leave the gang, they had to jump me out. Now, the jumping out process has changed since I was in. The jump out process is I had 3 guys surround me. They were 16 and 17, and they asked me if I was sure that I wanted to be out. But before I could give them my answer and my reasoning, they beat me. They beat me bad, and I ended up in the hospital for a few weeks. But I was lucky because now there's no way to be jumped out. Now the only way out is through death, and that's it. I learned a lot being in the gang, and one of the most important things that I took away from it was it's all BS. And what I mean by that is you do it with the idea of thinking that they're there for you, that they care about you, but they don't. You get into it because of the money. You get into it because it looks good, the things you can buy with the money. There is a certain level of power and prestige that comes with it, but it's not what you think. It's glorified a lot of times. It's extremely dangerous and not fun. Well, once I made it through the military, made it through law enforcement, when I went to Denver, I ended up being put on to the gang unit, and I was on a Denver Gang Metro Task Force. And they had me go on because I understood the gang life. I understood the language, the tattoos, how to read them, what they meant, so on, and a lot of the cultural issues that came along with it. Working alongside lieutenants for the Mexican Mafia, the Japanese Triads, and the Crips. Now, the Crips headquarters, believe it or not, is in Denver, Colorado. Do you guys know that? Yeah. You guys heard of Aurora, Colorado? That's where they are. That's where they started. All right. Now, every time we hear about the Crips, we hear about them being in LA. Well, that's where a lot of their money is, but their headquarters is in Aurora, Colorado, just outside of Denver. So I worked a lot with these gangs, some of the leaders of some of these gangs, and they're dangerous. They're, in a lot of cases, I would say they have a lot more power and influence than our government. And I mean that. Being careful about who you're talking to. A lot of times we don't look at gang members as being white females. But do you believe that white females are in the gangs? What do you think? Raise your hand if you think that. Okay. Believe it or not, a lot of the ones that I had to arrest worked at the Capitol building in Denver. And you would have never guessed it because they're in suits. They're nice and they're pretty and they're well spoken, and they have a lot of power and they can kill you like that. So dealing with that was a major eye opener for me. And I left and started working with gangs, teaching corporations, schools through ECC how to deal with violence how to deal with workplace violence, how to deal with dangerous gangs and so on. I did that for quite a while. And, you know, recently I gave a lecture and I talked about some of the things that's changing with the gangs. And what's really happening is now we see a complete fallout that gangs are no longer organized, but they're always here. They're always going to be here. They're not going to go anywhere. But they're not organized. And what I mean is the kids today don't have mentors within the gangs because they're starting their own gangs, and their own gangs just have no structure. So a lot of the reasons why we're seeing so many people die, why we're seeing a lot of the violence, it's because there's no rank structure to it anymore. And it's starting to affect, well, the entire world, really. We're starting to see it come into this area. Not so bad, but it's gonna get here eventually if we're not paying attention to it. And I try to make sure that people are aware of what's going on, how to protect yourself at home, how to protect yourself when you're driving, traveling, and so on, and then also at work. A lot of times I wish I did not know what I know. Anybody here wish they didn't know some of the things that they know? You know, a lot of times I wish I didn't, but the truth is that you take what you got and you make sure that you educate people as best you can. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, bound to make more, but I try really hard to do good, be good, and to remember where I came from. I came from a gang, you know, that's where I started. And it's where I started to learn about what life is really about. And not everything is as simple as what we think it is, but you do the best you can with what you got. Now, I gave everybody a handout, and it has my books. I spend most of my time writing and lecturing. I talk about crime and cultural behavior and policies and procedures that should be changing for businesses, organizations, institutions, and so on. And I'm always here to offer some private advice if you should ever need it. You can ask me anything you like, and I will answer it. You may not like my answer, but you can ask me, and I'll answer it. Any questions? Go with yours.
I'm not really aware of any gang activity in Jamestown. I don't know if there is any gang activity in Jamestown, but could you speak to that, please?
So here we have really small, unorganized groups, more so than gangs. I think that it's we have a lot of them moving through here, more so than being stable here. And some of it, I think, is because of the county, because of the type of county that we're in. We are in a Republican county, and they know a lot of your gang members are going to be aware of who the political powers are, and they don't want to deal with the swift law that would come their way. So a lot of them won't come here. They'll go to places where they know they're going to have a little bit more favor, like Erie County. In Erie County, even though there's a lot of police there, there's a lot of people where they can blend in. Here, you can't blend in here. I say all the time that Jamestown is like a giant village more so than a city. Everybody knows everyone in some way, related in some way, and so on. So gangs, they do their surveying all as well. So you'll see them pass through here. I've run into a few of them. They do come through here, but it's usually to drop off something, pick up something. Yeah. Oh yeah. Drugs, guns. Oh yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, Rashad, I think I heard you say that the gangs are not going to go away, right?
I'm sorry.
That gangs are not going to go away. Is that what you said?
Guns are.
Then, yeah. they're not gonna go away, right? It's not
Yeah.
gonna stop.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're not
Okay.
gonna go away.
Your own opinion, why do you think that's so?
I believe gangs have been around since, I don't know, the beginning of time. Think about civilization and the multitude of gangs that came up on the height of the Roman Empire. They've always been here. The reason why gangs form in the first place typically is to be able to protect the people that look like them, to protect their communities. Well, those things have never changed. They've always been here. When we were going through our industrial revolution, we did nothing but open up the borders and then had gangs come over here. But they've always existed. The only thing you can do is try to figure out who they are, what their main objective is, and I don't want to say work with them, but be aware of their presence. And believe it or not, a lot of them are just blending in. Like I said, you don't really know who you're talking to. A lot of them do blend in and may not, it could be grandma, but grandma is making cookies and she's also calling the shots. That's the scary part about it. Okay. So just being aware of that. But they'll never go away because gangs are like the arm of politics. Yes. Okay, that's a good question. So there was two people really. The first was a librarian. So when I was coming up, it was often I would hear things like, "You can't do that because you're Black." Well, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, there was a library that was down the street from me. And I remember opening up the doors and the smell of ink and paper together, that marriage is just beautiful. And I would open the doors, but I would never go in and buy anything because I was told by Black and white kids that I couldn't have a library card because I was Black. So I would just stand outside the library and I would wait for people to come in and come out and smell the air. And then one day I went inside and I was just looking at the librarian. I wouldn't say anything for a few minutes. And she says to me, she goes, "Honey, you need something?" And I was like, well, I was nervous to ask her. I said, well, I was kind of wondering if I could get a library card. She goes, "You don't have one?" I said, "No." She goes, "Come on over here, honey." That was the first time that I realized that people don't know what they're talking about. They simply repeat what they hear, but they don't do their own research. That was the first event. And then the second event was when I got adopted at 14 after being homeless for several years with a white family that lived in the country up in Lewiston. You guys know Lewiston, Youngstown. So I lived with them. And the first day that I was there, I was working on a farm. And, you guys ever clean up manure? Yeah, raise your hands high. Raise them high. Okay. There was a sweet smell to it. Because what it was is I'm out here working and I'm brought into this family. I didn't look at myself as being Black and they're white. I looked at myself as being free because I didn't have the fear of gangs or being beat up or being shot at. I mean, I have been shot at so many times as a kid. How I'm still alive, I don't know. To be out there just working hard and knowing that after I'm done working, I have earned the right to be able to eat with everyone. And it wasn't a race issue. It was, if you're going to be a part of the family, get out there and work, come in and you'll eat. And that really changed my life. And I tell a lot of kids today, especially your inner city kids, go to the country, stay there for a week. It will change you. It will definitely change you. And it did for me. And I stayed there for a few years, and then my foster mother, she died, and I was kicked out the next day after her funeral. I was kicked out, and then that was it. 17 years old, and I never lived with anyone again. I just tried to figure out how to take care of myself.
There's an old saying that says, as the twig is bent, so grows the tree. So I'm thinking that as a child in a gang, there are things you learn that obviously were not useful later. But what about that part of your life did you bring forward and learn how to use for good? What did you learn anything on the street that you could redeem in your later life and say, that's a quality I have because of something I learned on the street?
Leadership and compassion. So in the gang life, you learn a lot about how to be hard. So, you know, you're 7 years old, but you're around adults, and you're around male adults, and it's very much accountability. You learn how to lead really quick, and to be accountable to the next guy. That was something that I have brought and kept in my life, making sure that I can teach leadership and compassion, because I know what it's like to starve. My daughter, every once in a while, she'll say things like, "Oh, Daddy, I'm starving." And I'm like, "Don't you start that with me." Okay. And I'm that way because I know what it's like to really starve, to be hungry, to beg for food in Penn Station, to go onto the transit in the Bronx and Brooklyn, and to be panhandling, asking for something to eat. And even though I'm a kid, not, knowing that not many people are going to give me anything. I know what that's like. So making sure that I'm working with the homeless is really important to me. And working with families in general that need some help and direction, because not everything is as clear as what we think. I grew up with a mother that was on drugs. Guys, ever seen some of the movies where they'll have the mother, and there's like roaches and mice and stale food and throw up all over them and stuff? That's what I grew up with. So to have a family falling apart, always trying to be on a hustle, that's what I try to do. Make sure that people have as much as I can give them some direction.
Isaiah, thank you so much. This has been real eye-opening. I'm sure people have many more questions, but we really appreciate you coming and speaking to us. One of Rotary's major international programs is the work to eradicate polio in the world. And in honor and thanks of your presentation today, our club will give a donation in your name that will vaccinate 4 children, so they'll never have to know the experience of polio in their life. Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah.
There you go. And also, I think our Rotary theme for this year, is create hope in the world. And I think you are a personification of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.